What if the people who were supposed to love you most spent years convincing you that you were worthless, only for them to one day come begging at your feet? My name's Glenn, and this is the story of how my father humiliated me in front of hundreds, and how I made him choke on his own pride. I grew up quiet, not because I lacked ambition, but because in my family silence was survival. My father never missed a chance to compare me to my cousin Mark, the so-called golden boy. Mark bought a house, I was wasting money on rent. Mark landed a promotion, I apparently wasn't aiming high enough. By the time his wedding rolled around, I knew what to expect: champagne towers, luxury cars lined up outside, and my parents bragging about Mark like he'd cured cancer. I showed up, tried to blend into the background, and hoped I could make it through unnoticed. Then my father stood for a toast. He raised his glass, beamed at Mark, and said, "Now this is what a real son looks like. Not like the failure sulking in the corner." The entire hall turned toward me. Some people gasped, others looked away. I forced a smile, lifted my glass, and pretended it was a joke. But inside, something broke. The insults didn't stop. At dinner, my mom leaned across the table, her voice carrying, "Glenn, don't embarrass us tonight. Try to smile for the photos." Later, when Mark cut the cake, my dad yelled over the crowd, "Take notes, Glenn, if anyone would even have you." This wasn't teasing. It was a public stripping of my dignity. I stepped outside under the string lights, fists trembling. I almost left entirely. But then my phone buzzed. It was an email, confirmation that a major contract I'd been working on for months had gone through. At that moment I realized, my family had no idea who I really was or what I was building. And I decided, they weren't going to know. Not yet. Months turned into years. While my family laughed about my supposed failures, I was grinding in silence. My side hustle grew into a business. Clients stacked up. I doubled my income, then tripled it. Eventually, I left my corporate job altogether. I bought my own place, sleek, modern, overlooking the city. Not to show off, but to remind myself I had risen above the noise. And still, I let my parents believe I was sulking. I let them think I was the quiet disappointment in the corner. Because I was waiting, for the moment they'd need me. That moment came with a phone call. My mom's voice trembled, Mark was drowning in debt. The house, the cars, the big wedding, it had all been smoke and loans. And now, my father, the man who once called me a burden, wanted my advice. When I walked into their living room, I wasn't a quiet son anymore. I was in a tailored suit, briefcase in hand. Their faces said it all: shock, confusion, and finally, desperation. I listened as they begged for help. Every insult, every humiliation replayed in my mind. And for the first time, I didn't shrink. I didn't bow my head. I looked my father straight in the eyes and said, "Funny how life turns out. The son you called a failure is the only one who can save you now." I could have turned my back that day. But instead, I chose something far more powerful. I set boundaries, laid out my terms, and let them see, clear as daylight, that their words no longer had power over me. And as I left their house, I realized, revenge isn't about crushing someone. Sometimes, it's about showing them you never needed their approval to rise.